Hi, my name is Max, and today I'm going to show you how to build this. A simple and easy way to oil cool any crypto miner, eliminate the noise, and possibly redirect the heat to a useful purpose. For the main body, we're going to use this. This is a 40mm ammo can, and if you're not familiar with these are ammunition containers that are generally standard in NATO countries. They are made out of pressed and stamped steel. They have nice paint on them, a locking lid that is lockable and is air and watertight and has a nice gasket to it. So this will keep all our oil inside and safe from contamination. Now, I already laid out the holes here, but what we need to do is drill a hole for the pump outlet, a hole for the oil return, another one for the main power, and one more for the pump power. And then on the lid, we're going to drill a hole for the Ethernet connection. Well, now when you drill these holes, you want to support the back side of this, otherwise this can dent and not come out very well. So mount the 2x4 on the edge of a table, like this. Place your miner on top. Don't forget your safety goggles. And then we are going to use this step drill to drill these two 7/8 inch holes. Before we do that, we want to center punch them so that our drill bit doesn't slide. After you've drilled your holes, the next step is to deburr the back side and get rid of any of these sharp edges. Otherwise they will cut into our seals. Use a file to cut to trim the edges off till they're nice and smooth. You can feel right now they're sharp, but once you're done deburring and all the holes are smooth and have no sharp edges, clean the inside of the can thoroughly. We don't have any active filtration. The oil will pick up any dirt or particles in the left in the can. And the cleaner, the better. So for the pumping, we're going to use this EcoPlus 1056 submersible pump and these AN10 37-degree flared fittings. They are the same as on our radiator, and we will continue using them all throughout the system. So in order to do this, take the front housing off. So we need a AN10 to a 3/4 inch MPT elbow. Wrap some Teflon tape around the elbow. More than plenty. And then twist it in. And we need the elbow facing at a 90-degree angle. So the other thing was we need to take our 2 feet off to fit everything inside. But before we do that, take a couple of feet off the power cord. Cut this off. Save this, we will need it later. Take your 1/4 inch grommet. So it turns out the 1/4 inch grommets actually need a 7/16 hole. These are a little different than the other ones I got in the other cores that I've built. So make sure the hole sizes line up. So fit your grommets in there. They should fit in pretty tight because these are going to seal our oil and make sure none leaks through. And then fit the one for the power cable in here as well. So for the feed throws, we're going to use these dash AN10 bulkheads and two number 210 O-rings, one per side. So place the O-ring on the fitting, like so. Place it into our housing. It might be a little tight, but that's good. Place the second O-ring. So now we need to fit the pump, and we're going to use this AN10 coupler in between. So in order to make this easier, take the feet off the pump on the opposing side. Screw the coupler in all the way. And place the pump inside. This is a little tight in there, as you can see. But it should all fit. Now, tighten the coupler and the nuts, and then we need to feed the power cord through the grommet. This might take a little effort, and be careful not to rip the grommet out, but it needs to be tight to seal. If your cord doesn't want to go through the grommet, take some of the mineral oil you're going to use for your cooling and lube up the cord and the grommet, and it should go in rather nice and easily. And then we can do the same thing for the power cord. For the oil return, we need to add a oil return line. So first, place your fittings, just like your pump fitting. For the oil return, we're going to use two of these 3/4 inch fittings. We'll also need a hose clamp and just some basic 3/4 inch braided hose. And what we want to do is have an oil return supply line that goes from the oil return on the other side of the can through the miner and into the pump to ensure adequate flow. So we want to just roughly measure out this piece. Once you measure this to be roughly the size you want, take this fitting out. It's a lot easier, and then push it into the hose and it should start to thread in. Push it back through, but be careful not to damage your threads. Place the O-ring. Once you get your transition piece in here, take your other elbow, fit it onto the end of the hose, and then measure out how much you will need to have this elbow touching the back wall. Put it right here. So this completes our oil return. Once we put the miner in, this bend is not going to be an issue. So if you notice, we have a clear space that we can fit our miner inside without taking any of the fittings off. So this is we're going to use an Antminer S9. However, all these cases seem to have a standard width of 135 millimeters. The can is 140 millimeters inside. This miner is 10.5 inches long. The dragament is the same. So in this setup, you can use any miner that's 10.5 inches long by 135 millimeters wide. Anything longer won't fit. Anything shorter, for example, an S7 will. These miners all use what are called pulse width modulated fans, which the miner sends a signal for the speed to the fan, but it also receives a signal to ensure the fan is running at the proper speed. Since we're in oil, the fans cannot run at their proper speed of about 5,000 RPM. So we need some way to eliminate that. I get these fan eliminators from an outfit called Fan Be Gone, and they kind of look like this. And how they work is, it'll just sit right here, and we plug the other side into the fan slot, and it'll generate a signal of the right frequency to fool the miner thinking the fans are on. The one modification I would make is, since it comes with this plug, I would cut the plugs off the fans and solder them on like this, because it's rather tight in there. And once you've done that, use a piece of 3/4 inch heat shrink tubing to insulate everything. Make sure nothing shorts. Do not use insulating tape, because the glue on the tape will turn into shmoo and might clog things up. So the next step is we're going to take these fans off. And we are not going to use them. However, we would like to use this grill and make sure the miner does not slide onto the pump. Now, one of these screws, the one right here, will fit in without breaking the heat sinks. However, none of the other sides will. So take one of the screws, just take a pair of cutters, cut a section off. So now we add our newly shrink fitted fan eliminators. You can tuck it away on the side. So now, if we take our oil return, oh, the other step we want to do is, this is kind of important, take your 2 screws and tighten them so there's a little sticking out. And this will prevent, if this ever gets bumped, the miner can't bump up against the wall and interrupt the oil flow. That's one of the tricks we will use to prevent that. So now we can fit the miner into the can. We have our stops. If we notice, everything fits in nice and tight. And then we'll take our oil return and put the elbow right in the back there. As you can see, our fan illuminators out of the way. For the Ethernet cable, I highly recommend you get one with a 90-degree end like this. There's not a lot of room back here, so it will reduce any flux on this coupler. And then just kind of tuck it through. Now we have to fit the power supply, and this configuration will work with both the Bitmain or the APW myriad power supplies. So all you have to do is plug everything in. Now all you have to do is carefully tuck the wires inside and plug the power cord. The last step is to mount the Ethernet feed through. The reason we don't want to mount it on this side is because this device will leak through this way, so if we mount it here, the oil will leak out. So we're going to mount it on the top. Where you actually mount this, as long as it doesn't interfere, is fine, but I would prefer to mount it somewhere over here, just to keep everything on one side. So I've measured a hole 2 inches from this edge and 1.5 inches from this edge, and this particular one requires a 13/16 inch hole. So we're gonna center punch it, and then drill. Since we have access on the back side, we can use the step drill to deburr our hole here and just very lightly knock off this ring here. Once it's nice and smooth, mount the bulkhead. Plug in the cable and make sure everything fits in nice and smooth. Now that we've put everything together, your can should look like this. As you can see, we have our pump, our fittings, easy access for the miner, and the power supply. So we have just a few last touches before we're finished. First, we need to tighten all these fittings. These are aluminum fittings. They don't require a lot of torque. The official spec is 35 foot-pounds. The easy way to do this is to tighten them hand tight and then tighten them a quarter turn with a wrench. And you want to support the elbow as you're tightening these. And on the bulkheads, you want to support the nut on the inside too. Now on the O-ring fittings, you don't want to over tighten these, otherwise you'll squish out the O-rings and they won't seal. So just give these about a quarter turn past hand tight. One last step before we're done. If you've been running your miner out in the air, it's probably very dusty. We want to keep this system as clean as possible, so it would be a good idea to clean off this miner. And what you could use is something like this. This is basically a hexane in a can. To spray off all the dust and dirt off this and maybe blow it off with compressed air. Other than that, this is the finished product. All you have to do is tuck everything back inside. Close the lid. Now we have the completed oil can assembly. All we have to do now is connect these two fittings to the heat exchanger, fill it with oil, and start it up. I will show you how to build the heat exchanger and blower in part 2. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them. If you like this sort of stuff, please let me know. I can do another video where we can build one of these, but with 2 miners. Thank you for watching, and subscribe.